You don't need magic to disappear for a while, because Firestone tires were built for ticking off mile markers. Firestone Destination LE3 tires for 70,000 miles of exploring. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
Marc Pons is a premier tire dealer in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Chapel Hill Tire was founded in 1953. Mark's dad, Al Pons, purchased Chapel Hill Tire in 1964. As a teenager, Mark worked in the business, but Mark decided he didn't have aspirations to continue working in the business, so he forged his own path and moved to New York City. He got a job with Chase Bank working in their foreign exchange trading department. But when his dad, Al, had a heart attack and died unexpectedly, 26-year-old Mark felt the sense of duty to come back to the business. His family appointed him president, and the rest is history. Today, Mark has grown Chapel Hill Tire to 10 locations in the North Carolina Research Triangle. Their values-based leadership approach has led them to continued success. Welcome to Johnny G and Friends. I'm Johnny G, and on today's podcast, we're joined by Marc Pons, president of Chapel Hill Tire down in good old North Carolina. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Johnny.
Well, Mark, I'm really excited to have you on the show today, buddy.
I'm super glad to be here. It's an honor.
Well, your dad, let's go back. Your dad purchased Chapel Hill Tire in 1964. Tell me about your dad.
So my dad graduated from University of North Carolina in 1957 and quickly got a job with Goodyear in their, they had a management training program back then. And so they sent him across the state. He and my mom were married, and about every year or two, he would pick up and move to a different town. And I think then my mom became pregnant with my brother and sister, and the moving around got a little old. And through the network, Chapel Tire was a Goodyear dealer back then. So through the network, he learned of that the store was for sale, and he was able to. He didn't have any money. He borrowed money from my mom's dad, and to purchase the store, and was able to do that and purchase it. I think he even paid my grandfather back early. And you know, the rest is history. It's been in our family since then, and the business really is a member of the family.
Awesome.
It feels that way.
That's great. So what was the most important thing that your dad taught you that you still use today?
So, you know, that's a great question. I think my dad taught me to have respect for all individuals. I think that was just a great. He was a people person, and you know, no matter who you were, he just showed you respect, and you felt valued by him. And I think I learned that from him. And the other lesson I think I learned was, you know, do what you say you're going to do. Keep your word.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's those are two very good learning experiences. So at 17 years old, you work a summer with your dad, but you really don't like it. What didn't you like about the tire and service business?
So the big thing for me, the work itself was fine. I didn't like being the boss's son. I didn't like people looking at me like maybe I didn't have to work as hard as everybody else, or you know, just talking about me as the boss's son. I was something to talk. I just didn't like that at all, Johnny. So, you know, I said to myself, you know, I don't want people saying that anything was given to me, or, you know, I'm going to go out and do my own thing and prove that I'm worthy.
Very good. So you do that, 26 years old, you're living the dream, working in the financial district of New York City. And then suddenly you get a phone call, your dad dies of a heart attack.
Yeah.
What thoughts did you have, my friend?
Well, it was a whirlwind, obviously at the time, but honestly, Johnny, one of the first or second thoughts that came to my mind was, I need to move back home. I need to move back to Chapel Hill. A sense of duty took over, and like I said, this business is really been part of our family. And so I felt a calling to come back and make sure that it lives on, and it was in, it lived on for generations.
So at 30 years old, the family votes you in as president.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any mentors helping you with this transition along the way?
There's certainly a certain amount of baptism by fire there for jumping in that way. But I did, there's angels in your life who come out, and there was people willing to help me. There was one of my dad's old managers who really showed up big. In fact, he was the guy who picked me up at the airport when I flew in after my dad died. There was a family attorney that just went out of his way to make sure that, that I was okay, that things were going well. There really are just angels that show up in important times in your life.
Well, that's awesome. That's great. So Chapel Hill, congratulations, has grown to 10 locations.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2015, you said to me that you hit a growth ceiling in the advertising and marketing expenditure part. So you developed a values-based strategy. Can you talk about those core values?
Sure, Johnny. It was, like you said, 2015. We had 5 locations then. And I was just struggling, Johnny. No matter, businesses go in cycles, and you hit growth ceilings at different stages of business growth. And we just hit a big ceiling, and I didn't know how to get around it. And what had gotten me there was not going to get me to the next level. But I kept trying to do the same thing that had gotten me there over and over again. And it was really frustrating, because what you're doing there is banging your head against a wall, right? And then finally, the businesses I noticed that were really growing and thriving and just killing it were business like Tate Boys, Craig Tate. I'm in a group called Vistage. There's a Baker Roofing, and those guys weren't talking about KPIs. They were talking about culture. And they weren't talking about advertising. They were talking about investing in their teams and having their teams invest and dazzle their customers. And that's when I realized that I needed to do the hard work of investing in our culture, and we needed to really define our core values, define the company's purpose and where the company was going. And I've got to tell you, and we created routines around our values. So, every week we have 5 core values: strive for excellence, treat each other like family, say yes to customers and each other, be grateful and helpful, and win as a team. And each week we have a different one of those values is featured during the week. And we have a morning huddle at each store. My management, we have a morning huddle. We go over what's the value of the week. How do we live it? So we built routines in to the company around the values. And
stop right there. A morning huddle. Talk to me about it. Every store, every morning has a huddle.
Every store, just like a football team getting ready to run their plays, has a morning huddle, and they go over. They start the meeting with what's the value of the week and how do we live it. And in some cases, they're going to talk about, well, I saw Joe yesterday. Staying late to fix a car for a customer who's trying to get on the road. That's treating each other like family. They treated that customer like family. Or it could be, I needed help and I was struggling, and I asked Johnny G for help, and Johnny G said yes. He said yes to me I know he was busy, but he said yes, and he helped me out, and I really appreciate it. And that's saying yes to customers and each other. And so we bring up those examples.
Nice.
Yeah. And so they're constantly being reinforced, and they're constantly being reinforced with real live examples of how we live them.
And tell me about this program that you have with the teachers going on in the marketplace there.
Yeah. So that's an example of us living our be grateful and helpful value. Every year in the spring, we print up 3,000 free oil change gift certificates. And we go around to the local area schools and distribute those. So it's in the spring school's getting ready to get out, and we just want to say thank you to the teachers in our community, because I don't think they hear thank you enough. And it's just a way of us just thanking people in our community. It's just one of our core values to give back.
That's so cool. That's so cool. What about, I heard a program about Wheels for Hope. What's that about?
So yeah, that's another example. Wheels for Hope is an organization that works with people who are trying to get back on their feet. These people could have been homeless. They may have been drug addicts. They might have been domestic violence victims. They could be refugees, but they've come from really hard backgrounds, but they're working really hard to get on a path to sustainability in their lives. And Wheels for Hope takes cars that are donated by the community and fixes them up and makes them, sustainable transportation. And they work with different agencies in the community that vet and vouch for these people that they're on the path. And Wheels for Hope sells them the car. They don't give them the car. They have to have some skin in the game, but they buy the car for $500, which is like tax and tags.
Right.
But you talk about life-changing, Johnny. In this world, you're trying to get yourself on a better path. And to get to work, you've gotten a job, but you might be having to rely on friends to get you to work. You might be having to take 3 or 4 hours of public transportation on something that should take 30 minutes, right?
Right.
And so it is absolutely game-changing for these folks to get transportation. Now they can get to their job. They can get to a better job. They can they go to the grocery shopping for their family. They take their kids to doctor's appointments. It's just life-changing. So Chapel Hill Tire, I've served on the board of Wheels for Hope, but I'm also, Chapel Hill Tire is what's called a partner garage, and we donate the labor to fixing up these cars. So our employees and team get to have sort of a vested interest in this organization, and it's really great when you see they do what's called a car blessing, and when you see someone get these cars and you hear their stories and their powerful stories, and you see the tears start, pouring down because their life has changed. It really just lifts you up.
That's unbelievable. That is really cool. That's first time I ever heard anything like that.
Such a cool thing. Yeah.
Really. And then around Christmas time, you've got this Christmas kindness. What's that all about?
Yeah, that's again, we're living our value of being grateful and helpful. We do 12 days of kindness, and this year we had our customers in the community nominate people who we said nominate someone who always gives of themselves and never asks for anything in return. And we had over 100 nominations, and our team had the tough job of narrowing it down to 12. And we narrowed it down to 12, and each of those 12 recipients got $1,000 worth of free car care from Chapel Hill Tire. And each day on social media, we had a different person was revealed, and we told their story and announced their names. And so, over 12 days for the 12 days of kindness, we announced each person. And I got to tell you, Johnny, when these cars came in, they didn't need $1,000 worth of work. They needed $2,000, $3,000. We had one lady who was a community volunteer. Someone in our neighborhood had recommended her. We put $5,000 worth of work into that car to get it running for her. And she cried when we told her, and there was tears. And now the cool story is her son was so moved by this, and he wants to be a technician. Her son wants to come work with us.
Awesome. This culture thing is really inbred in your company, where you actually put together a manifesto for all your employees to work at Chapel Hill Tire. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, Johnny. So I really believe that what all this culture stuff does is unleashes the energy and the power of your people. And so once we started focusing on it, and our people really became engaged in it, and they were more aligned with where the company was going, and they believed the company was on a journey that everyone was on together. We believe that employees are going to only treat customers up to the level they're treated, so that it's management's role to create a killer work environment. And so we wanted to describe what that environment was. So I took some time off and went to each location and had lunch and had a whiteboard, and we had many focus groups. And I asked the team, from your definition, what is it like to work here? And we did that. I synthesized the information and came up with the Work Happy Manifesto. And it talks about things that we're on a journey together, a journey to grow. It talks about that we're going to be accountable to each other, ourselves, and the community. Talks about that, a job at Chapel Hill Tire is not like any other car or tire place. And it just talks about us striving for excellence. And it's a really powerful thing, and I'm really, really proud of it. And like I said, it was created by the team.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Mark, you're located in a very sophisticated market down there in the Research Triangle area of North Carolina. You've got a lot of hybrids, EVs. You guys were an early adopter of hybrid training. Can you tell me about some of this training?
Sure, Johnny. Well, I guess the motivation for it goes back to roughly 1998. Okay, I've been in the business a year or so, and I'm seeing that we want to expand our offerings. I want to offer more to more customers. And it goes back to, I had some employees who were struggling with simple things like, check engine light diagnostics. These were some older school employees. They didn't want to do it. And they were saying, I don't want to work on check engine lights. And I'm just like, we can't turn customers away. We got to serve our customers. And so what I learned was that when it comes to technology, there's sometimes that people run away from the technology and they just say, well, I'm too old to deal with that. And it made a mark on me, Johnny. So when hybrids came around, I sort of saw the same thing. And I said, whoa. We're not going to run from hybrid technology. We're going to run into hybrid technology. We're going to lean into it and learn about it because we want to serve our customers. And so we paid for training. We used a trainer out of Boston. Craig Van Battenberg is one of the leading hybrid trainers in the country. He came down and worked with our folks, and we became hybrid certified. And what we realized is that there's a lot more fear around hybrids than they were actually complicated. And once you got over that fear, that we could fix Priuses, we could put new batteries in them, and so I really feel like it's the same with EVs. There's more fear, there's more, it's that lack of knowledge, and I want to lean into that. I want to lean into that fear and overcome it and just so that we can serve our customers and tackle it.
I'm sure there's a lot of tire dealers that are listening to this podcast that said, I need to embrace that also because I got the same situation going on. I remember back in the late 60s, when we went from standard brakes to disc brakes, it was like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And you have all that fear, and then, it's just the leader making that change that says, hey, we just need to go heads on and really embrace this. And so congratulations for doing that.
I heard a quote, John, that said on the, how does it go? Everything you ever want in life is on the other side of fear.
That's it. That's it. Very well said.
Yeah.
So, Mark, with 10 locations under your belt, you've got a lot of passion for this business today. What's the next 5 years bring?
Well, we're having such a good time. Again, just investing in this culture. It is rewarding. It is fulfilling. It gives me purpose in life. And we want to keep investing in that. We want to keep growing. I think in the next 5 years, the intention is to double the number of locations we have. It's to, keep living our values, keep what we call inspiring this work happy, drive happy movement. We want to bring more customers under the tent and serve more customers. We want to keep innovating around customer service. We've got a pickup and delivery service that we're working on now.
How often do you get out to the stores?
I try to get out at least weekly to one store or two stores. I'm doing a new thing, Johnny, where every 2 weeks I'm going to a store and taking 3 or 4 people to lunch, and I'm talking about the strategic plan of the business, and taking just rank and file employees and saying, here's our purpose, our values because we focus on them so much, but here's also our 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan, and I want them to know, when you see things happening in the business, I want them to have an understanding of the why. Why is the company doing this? And I want them to understand how what they do impacts the larger strategic plan of the company.
Such a great idea. I mean, it's simple, it's basic, but to take time out, to take 2 or 3 employees, listen to what their thoughts are. I mean, it's common sense, really. But
it helps. It makes me feel good that I'm being the right leader, that I'm actually getting out there with my people and communicating with them, and also getting to know them on a more personable level, because we've got 170 employees now. And so it's not like it was 10 years ago where I could, immediately pull up everybody's name in the company. So, I want to know people on that deeper, more personable level.
Right. Very good. Very good. All right, Mark. So we're going to try something new in season 3 of Johnny G and Friends. It's called rapid fire questions. Okay.
Okay. That's exciting.
So ask you a question, and the first thing that pops up on your mind, just spit it out. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So would you rather go off-road racing or speed around a racetrack?
Off-road racing.
All right. Favorite drink?
Can I say bourbon?
Sure.
Is that okay? Okay.
Absolutely.
Bourbon.
Bourbon. Good. So don't take offense to this, but when it comes to basketball, Tar Heels or Blue Devils?
Oh, Johnny, you offended me with that. Having to ask that. Of course it's Tar Heels.
All right. I knew that. Best restaurant in Chapel Hill for any of our listeners?
Ben 54 Steakhouse.
Very good. All right. So now name a person that inspires you.
Johnny, I've always loved and respected Alan Mulally, the ex CEO of Ford Motor Company. The guy came in, and again, he brought a lot of culture, a lot of the stuff that I'm so passionate about. He brought into Ford and really turned Ford around.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, I've never had the pleasure of meeting him because he was after my time, but I did read a lot of things, good things about him. So last question. If your life was a story, what would it be titled?
I'd have to say Tommy Boy.
Ah, okay. I love it. I love it. That's great. That's great. So, Mark, I really want to thank you for being part of Johnny G and Friends today. I'm going to be heading back to Nashville here in a few months. I'm going to hop in my Hummer, drive down to North Carolina. I want to go to Bin 54 and have a bourbon with you if I can, my friend.
Johnny, it's been a real treat to be on your show. I appreciate it so much. I hope your audience finds it interesting, and I can't wait for you to come down and visit me.
I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again, my friend. Be safe.
You bet. Have a good one.
You don't need magic to disappear for a while, because Firestone tires were built for ticking off mile markers. Firestone Destination LE3 tires. For 70,000 miles of exploring. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.